Ethan had never expected that a simple diplomatic mission would turn into one of the most memorable days of his life. The planet Lysera was a neutral ground for beings from dozens of star systems. Its sky was painted in soft shades of green and gold, and the buildings, shaped like spirals and towers, glimmered under the twin suns. Humans were rare here, and most aliens viewed them with polite curiosity. But Ethan, with his quiet confidence and bright smile, felt ready to meet them all. He adjusted his tie nervously and stepped out of the shuttle onto the wide marble plaza. Around him, diplomats and delegates moved with grace. Their robes flowed, their gestures were precise, and their voices, some musical and some like low hums, filled the air. Ethan felt small among them, yet strangely excited. He had been warned about the formal nature of the event. Every gesture, every word, every bow mattered. But Ethan had a trick up his sleeve, his sense of humor. He knew humans could stand out not only by their intelligence but by their charm. And today he decided he would be memorable. As he walked, scanning the crowd, Ethan noticed a group of tall, elegant figures conversing in a circle. One of them stood slightly apart, observing the crowd with calm eyes. She was taller than most humans, with smooth, shimmering skin that reflected the light, and hair that seemed almost alive, moving like soft waves in the air. She wore a gown that changed color depending on her movements, shifting from silver to soft violet. Ethan immediately knew she was someone important. He stepped closer, trying not to stare, and caught her eye. She smiled, a small, playful smile that made Ethan's heart skip a beat. "Who is she?" he whispered to himself. He had read the protocols, memorized the names, but nothing prepared him for Princess Lyra of the Valari, whose elegance was whispered about across the galaxy. Ethan's friend, Mira, leaned close. "Careful, Ethan, that's the princess. Very few humans get this close without an invitation." "I'm not here to be careful," Ethan muttered. "I'm here to make a memory." He squared his shoulders and took a deep breath. Fate, it seemed, was smiling at him. Just as he moved forward, his foot caught on the edge of a platform and he stumbled slightly. In the chaos, he collided gently with Princess Lyra. Papers in her hands fluttered, and Ethan caught them instinctively. "I'm so sorry," he said quickly, bowing slightly. Lyra laughed softly, a sound like silver bells. "Careful, human. You almost hurt yourself more than me." Her voice was melodic, full of warmth and something teasing. Ethan froze. He had not expected her to speak directly to him. His brain raced, trying to remember the proper diplomatic response. I mean, it is an honor to meet you, Princess Lyra." Her eyes twinkled. "The honor is mine. Most humans do not attend these events. They tend to stay away from complicated matters." "I enjoy complicated matters," Ethan said, surprising himself with the confidence in his voice, especially when they involve meeting someone extraordinary. Lyra tilted her head, studying him. Bold, curious, perhaps too curious. She smiled wider, and Ethan felt a strange warmth spread through him. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. Around them, the crowd moved on, unaware of the small human and the alien princess standing together. Ethan wanted to speak, to say something clever, but the words refused to form. Finally, trying to break the tension, he chuckled nervously and said, "Well then, marry me then." The words escaped before he could stop them. He froze, realizing he had just joked aloud to the most important alien in the room. For a heartbeat, Lyra did not respond. Ethan's heart pounded. He could almost hear it in his ears. Then slowly she smiled, and that smile was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was playful, genuine, and somehow full of hope. "I wish," she said softly. Ethan froze. His mind stopped. Did she mean it? Was she joking? Or was she serious? Lyra's gaze did not waver. She watched him with curious eyes, and then with a small laugh, she added, "Do not look so shocked, human. Perhaps your boldness is rare among your kind. Perhaps it is interesting." Ethan swallowed hard. I didn't expect—" "Few do," she said, tilting her head again. "Few expect humans to have courage or humor." "I like that." Ethan felt his cheeks flush. This was not how he imagined his first encounter with a princess, alien or otherwise. Normally he would have joked more, laughed more, tried to impress. But her calm gaze, her sincerity, and the subtle warmth in her voice made him feel like a child caught in a beautiful dream. Before he could speak again, a soft chime sounded, signaling the start of the welcoming ceremony. Princess Lyra stepped back, her gown shifting to a shimmering gold. She moved with elegance, almost floating across the plaza. Ethan wanted to follow her, but he knew the event demanded attention. He bowed once more and stepped aside, watching her blend seamlessly into the crowd of dignitaries. For the rest of the ceremony, Ethan could hardly focus. Every smile, every gesture of hers replayed in his mind. He noticed the way she listened carefully to other diplomats, the way she nodded in understanding, the subtle way she seemed to notice everything without appearing to do so. He realized she was more than beauty or charm. She was intelligent, perceptive, and commanding. After the ceremony, delegates moved to the central hall for discussions and introductions. Ethan followed cautiously, hoping for another chance to speak with her. To his surprise, Lyra approached him. "You did not leave after my joke," she said, her eyes glinting. Ethan shook his head. I could not. Your presence is compelling." She laughed softly. "Compelling? That is an unusual way to describe a human." "I meant it," he said, "and I did not expect you to respond the way you did." Lyra studied him for a moment. "Many expect humans to be timid, cautious, polite. You are neither. That is rare." They walked together through the hall, exchanging small talk. Ethan discovered that she enjoyed learning about humans, their customs, their humor, their creativity. In turn, he learned about the Valari, their history, their culture, their advanced technology. Each story she told was fascinating, and Ethan could not help but feel drawn closer to her with every word. At one point, Lyra paused near a large holographic display. "This technology," Ethan said, pointing, "is incredible, but it seems like it would take centuries for humans to understand fully." She looked at him with a smile. "Perhaps, but I find your curiosity refreshing. You do not fear what you do not understand. Most of my people are cautious, hesitant. Humans are bold." Ethan felt a swell of pride. Bold. Perhaps that was the one word that could describe him in her eyes. "I guess we have to be," he said. "Otherwise life would be too small." Lyra's gaze softened. "Small, yes. But sometimes even small moments can change everything. That is why I remember your words." She tilted her head slightly, her hair shimmering under the light. "Your joke? It was unusual. But it was honest in its own way." Ethan's heart raced again. "Honest?" he asked, barely whispering. "Yes," she said. "Humans are curious, brave, and interesting. That is why you're here standing with me now." The words made Ethan feel both nervous and elated. In a room full of advanced, majestic beings, she noticed him. She noticed him as more than just a human. He realized with a sudden clarity that perhaps humans could stand on equal ground with the galaxy's most advanced races, not because of technology, not because of strength, but because of heart, courage, and cleverness. As the evening continued, Ethan found himself laughing and talking more freely than ever before. He told small stories from Earth about simple things, games, festivals, music, and she listened, genuinely interested. In turn, Lyra shared tales of distant planets, ancient history, and discoveries that humans could barely imagine. By the time the stars of Lysera shone brightly in the twin night sky, Ethan knew this meeting would change his life forever. He had come to the summit expecting politics, rules, and diplomacy. Instead, he had found curiosity, laughter, and something deeper. A connection with a being from a faraway world who saw him not as inferior, but as intriguing, bold, and alive. And in a quiet corner of his mind, he remembered her words, the playful, impossible words, "I wish." Ethan smiled to himself. Perhaps this was just the beginning. After that first encounter with Princess Lyra, Ethan could not stop thinking about her. Every moment he spent at the summit, he felt a quiet pull toward her presence, a curiosity he had never experienced before. Humans were often underestimated in galactic gatherings, but Ethan had a feeling that here, with Lyra, his uniqueness mattered. The following morning, the summit resumed with formal meetings and discussions. Delegates from dozens of species filled the grand conference hall. Ethan walked carefully among them, trying not to appear too eager or clumsy. Yet his mind kept drifting back to Lyra and her playful words. "I wish." During the lunch break, he found himself near the garden terrace, where a gentle breeze carried the scent of alien flowers. To his surprise, Lyra was already there, examining the delicate plants with quiet fascination. She had a notebook in her hand, sketching something intricate. Ethan approached cautiously. "Good morning, Princess Lyra," he said softly. She looked up and smiled, a small glimmer of recognition in her eyes. "Ah, human, you are punctual." "I try," Ethan replied with a grin, "but mostly I just follow curiosity. Curiosity brought me here this morning." Lyra tilted her head, intrigued. "Curiosity? That is human, is it not? Your species seems to explore first, understand later." Ethan chuckled. "We explore because we have to. The universe is too vast to sit still and wait. Curiosity is our way of surviving and sometimes thriving." Lyra's eyes softened. "Perhaps that is why I find you. Interesting. Most of my people approach life cautiously, with calculated steps. Humans leap forward and adapt." Ethan smiled, feeling proud yet humbled. "We leap, yes, but sometimes we fall." Lyra's laugh was gentle. "And sometimes the leap shows something greater than falling. That is what I like about humans. You surprise us in ways we cannot predict." They walked through the terrace, talking quietly. Ethan asked about Valari culture, about the delicate balance of their traditions, and about the technology that had always amazed him. Lyra shared stories of distant planets, of ancient discoveries, and of challenges her people had faced to maintain peace. Each story revealed her intelligence, wisdom, and compassion. At one point, Lyra paused by a fountain, the water shimmering under the twin suns. She looked at Ethan with a thoughtful expression. "Most humans I meet think in simple ways. You ask questions that show a depth uncommon for your kind." Ethan felt a warm thrill. "I suppose I like to understand. Not just things, but people. You are fascinating, Princess Lyra. I want to understand you, your world, and how it all works." She smiled softly. Few dare to understand Valari without fear. "You have courage, and that is rare. But be warned, our culture is complex. To truly understand it may require more than curiosity." "I am willing to try," Ethan said firmly. "Curiosity is only the start. Understanding, that comes with effort." Lyra studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well. Perhaps you are worth the effort." The next few days of the summit became a mixture of formal discussions and secret moments of connection. Ethan discovered that Lyra often observed him from a distance, noting how he interacted with other delegates. He realized she appreciated his humor, his ability to see patterns where others saw only chaos, and his willingness to speak honestly even when it was unconventional. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Lyra invited Ethan to join her for a private tour of the palace's cultural wing. The corridor was lined with holographic displays of historical events, great Valari inventions, and interstellar art. Ethan's eyes widened at the wonders, but he noticed Lyra watched him just as closely as he watched the exhibits. "You enjoy this?" she said, noting his fascination. "I do," Ethan replied. "It is incredible to see how your people built such knowledge and beauty over centuries. Humans have something similar, but perhaps not as advanced." Lyra's smile was gentle. "Progress is not always measured by technology alone. Humans, you have creativity and emotion that sometimes surpass even the most precise machines. That is why your presence here is important." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. Here, in a palace of stars and history, the princess acknowledged something about humans he had always hoped for. That they mattered, not just in their own world, but in the galaxy. As they moved through the displays, Lyra stopped at a holographic map of the galaxy. "This is where we are, and here are the neighboring systems. Humans have barely touched the edges of the known galaxy, yet you influence events in ways most aliens cannot predict." Ethan leaned closer. "Influence? How do you mean?" Lyra gestured toward a cluster of star systems. "Your species is underestimated, often ignored, and yet humans have a way of thinking outside the rules. You solve problems differently. That is influence. Subtle, unexpected, but powerful." Ethan smiled. "I suppose that is what curiosity and humor can do. When you look at things differently, you see solutions no one else notices." Lyra laughed softly. "Exactly. And that is why I am interested in you, human. You remind us that the universe is not only about knowledge and rules, but also about heart, intuition, and courage." Ethan's mind raced. This was more than admiration. Lyra truly valued his human qualities, and it made him realize just how special this connection was. "Thank you, Princess. That means more than you might think." They continued their walk until the stars of Lysera glimmered in the night sky. The palace gardens glowed under soft bioluminescent lights, casting a magical aura over the paths. Ethan felt as if he had stepped into another world, one where humans and aliens could meet not as strangers but as equals. Over the next few days, their conversations deepened. Ethan shared stories of Earth, its oceans, forests, mountains, and cities. He spoke of music, sports, and traditions that were simple but rich in meaning. Lyra listened intently, asking questions that showed her genuine interest. In turn, Lyra revealed personal stories, challenges she had faced as a princess, the responsibility of leading her people, and the lessons she had learned about trust, courage, and friendship. Ethan realized that beneath her elegance and poise she was wise, compassionate, and sometimes lonely. One afternoon, Ethan was showing her a small human device, a music player he had brought. The tiny device played songs from Earth, simple melodies that carried emotion and stories. Lyra watched, fascinated as the music filled the air. "This is remarkable," she said softly. "Music like this does not exist among the Volari. We have harmonics and frequencies, but none that speak directly to the heart." Ethan grinned. "That's humans for you. We put our feelings into everything. Sometimes it works, sometimes it fails. But we try." Lyra's eyes sparkled. "And that is why I find humans extraordinary. You do not fear imperfection. You embrace it and turn it into art, joy, and discovery." Ethan felt a sudden boldness. "Princess Lyra, you inspire humans too. You make us want to be better, to think beyond ourselves." Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then she smiled, a small, genuine smile that made Ethan's heart leap. "Perhaps that is why we understand each other better than we expect. You are bold, human. You are alive in ways that even I sometimes envy." Ethan realized that this connection was growing beyond curiosity. It was a mutual respect, a recognition of qualities in each other that transcended species. Here, humans were not inferior, not insignificant. They were admired, understood, and valued. As the summit neared its conclusion, Ethan and Lyra shared a quiet moment on the palace balcony, overlooking Lysera's twin moons. Ethan felt a mixture of awe and gratitude. He had come to this planet expecting rules and diplomacy. Instead, he had found laughter, insight, and an unexpected bond with someone extraordinary. Lyra turned to him, her gaze soft. "Human, your presence here has been enlightening. Perhaps it is not only your curiosity that matters, but your courage to embrace it fully." Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth he had never felt before. "And perhaps it is your openness that makes it possible. Without your curiosity, I would not have been seen." Lyra chuckled softly. "Perhaps we are both curious. And that is rare. Perhaps rare things are meant to meet each other." Ethan's mind went back to her first words, the playful and impossible words, "I wish." Now he began to understand that it was not just a joke. It was a window into a connection neither of them fully understood yet. A connection that could grow, surprise, and inspire. And in that quiet moment under the twin moons, Ethan realized that this was just the beginning. A human could be underestimated in the galaxy, but with courage, curiosity, and heart, even a human could leave an impression strong enough to reach a princess's heart. For Ethan, that truth was more thrilling than any honor, more meaningful than any recognition. He had found a bond that transcended worlds, and he was ready to see where it would lead. The Volari Palace was quiet in the early morning, but Ethan's mind was far from calm. Word had spread that Princess Lyra had taken a personal interest in him, and with that attention came expectations he had not fully anticipated. The Volari Royal Council, known for its strict adherence to tradition, had decided to test him. Ethan sat on a bench in the palace garden, trying to steady his nerves. The trees were unlike any on Earth. Their leaves shimmered in colors that shifted with the light. A soft wind carried the faint hum of energy from the palace walls. Even in this beauty, Ethan felt the weight of what was coming. A Volari attendant approached. "Human, the council requests your presence," she said politely, bowing slightly. Ethan nodded. "I understand." He followed her through long corridors filled with holographic projections of Volari history. Each projection told stories of triumph, diplomacy, and innovation. Ethan realized that the Volari valued intellect and wisdom above all else, and that he would need more than charm to succeed. The council chamber was grand, circular and lined with crystals that reflected soft, colorful light. 8 members of the council sat in high chairs, their faces serious and unreadable. Lyra stood slightly apart, observing Ethan with her usual calm yet expectant gaze. "Human," the head of the council said, his voice resonant. "You have entered our world as a curiosity, but curiosity alone is not enough. To prove your worth, you must face challenges designed to test intelligence, judgment, and heart. Are you prepared?" Ethan swallowed hard. I will try my best." "Very well," the council head said. "Your first challenge is a puzzle of logic. Solve it within the allotted time or you will fail the test." A holographic cube appeared in front of Ethan. Its surfaces were covered with symbols and shifting lights. "Align the patterns to unlock the cube," one of the council members instructed. "Use your knowledge, intuition, and reasoning." Ethan studied the cube. His mind raced as he rotated the hologram, trying to understand the pattern. The symbols were unlike anything he had seen before, yet something about their arrangement felt familiar. Slowly, he noticed a rhythm, a hidden sequence that hinted at the correct alignment. He manipulated the holographic panels, combining logic with instinct. Time passed, and the council watched in silence. Sweat formed on Ethan's brow, but he did not stop. Finally, with a soft click, the cube opened, revealing a glowing crystal inside. The council murmured among themselves. "Interesting," one member said. "The human uses intuition alongside logic. Rare and effective." Ethan exhaled, feeling a rush of relief. He had passed the first challenge, but he knew there were more tests to come. The next challenge took place in the palace garden. A series of obstacles had been arranged to test agility, strategy, and perception. Ethan had to navigate through moving platforms, energy barriers, and shifting paths. Many humans would have hesitated, but he relied on quick thinking and adaptability. Each step was measured, each decision deliberate. Lyra watched from a distance, her eyes following his every move. She noted his calm under pressure, his ability to remain focused despite the unfamiliar terrain. "He adapts," she whispered to herself. "That is a human strength." Ethan reached the final platform and touched the crystal orb that marked the end. The barriers dissolved and a soft light bathed the garden. The council nodded in approval. "Impressive," the head of the council said. "You think beyond instinct. You combine observation with strategy. But one final test remains, ethical judgment." Ethan's heart pounded. He had expected logic and agility, but ethics? That was more difficult, especially in an alien culture with rules he barely understood. The council presented a scenario, a dispute between 2 Valari communities over scarce resources. Ethan was given data, projections, and testimonies. His task was to resolve the conflict fairly, ensuring no harm and promoting long-term peace. He studied the information carefully. Unlike the puzzles and obstacles, this challenge required empathy, foresight, and moral courage. Ethan considered the possible outcomes. He proposed a plan that shared resources equally, encouraged cooperation, and introduced a system to prevent future disputes. The council listened intently. "Your solution is unconventional," one member said, "but it respects our values while introducing a new perspective. You have shown creativity, fairness, and understanding, rare qualities among humans yet evident in you." Ethan felt a surge of pride. He had faced the 3 challenges and passed each one by relying on his human strengths: logic, adaptability, and compassion. But more importantly, he realized that humans had something unique: intuition, courage, and the willingness to take risks when others hesitated. Lyra approached him afterward, smiling warmly. "You have done well, human," she said softly. "You have faced tests designed to challenge even the most experienced Valari. And you succeeded." Ethan bowed slightly. "Thank you, Princess. I could not have done it without guidance from what I have learned observing your people." Lyra's gaze softened. "Perhaps that is the point. Humans and Valari are different, yet we learn from each other. Your perspective is valuable." Ethan felt a deep sense of validation. He had feared failure, but now he understood that his humanity, his courage, humor, and empathy was not a weakness. It was a strength, one that even an advanced civilization could recognize and admire. In the days that followed, Ethan and Lyra spent more time together. She introduced him to Valari art, music, and technology, and he shared stories of Earth, its cultures, and its people. Their bond deepened, built on mutual respect and curiosity. One afternoon, Lyra took Ethan to a high balcony overlooking the palace grounds. The twin moons of Lysera shone brightly, casting silver light over the gardens below. "You know," Lyra said softly, "many of my people doubt that humans could ever truly understand Valari traditions. Yet you see value in our ways without losing your own identity." Ethan smiled. "I think that is what humans do best. We adapt, but we stay ourselves. And we try to learn from others without forgetting who we are." Lyra's eyes sparkled. "That is why you are remarkable. You remind me that the galaxy is not only about rules, history, and technology. It is about courage, heart, and perspective." Ethan felt a warmth he could not explain. In a galaxy of advanced beings, he had found a place where his humanity mattered. Their quiet conversation was interrupted by a sudden message from the council. "Human, you are requested for a final ceremonial presentation," the attendant said. Ethan nodded and followed her, heart steady now, confidence growing. He had faced tests of logic, agility, and ethics, and he had succeeded. The ceremonial hall was filled with delegates, dignitaries, and council members. Lyra stood at the center, her presence commanding yet serene. Ethan took a deep breath. This was his moment, not to impress but to demonstrate the value of human courage, ingenuity, and heart. As he approached Lyra, she smiled knowingly. "Remember," she said softly, "the greatest strength is being true to yourself." Ethan nodded. "I will." He stepped forward and addressed the assembly, speaking not with formal rhetoric but with honesty. He explained his approach to the challenges, the thought behind each decision, and the value of human perspective. He spoke of courage, curiosity, and the power of empathy. The hall was silent, every delegate listening. When he finished, Lyra stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have shown us that humanity has something to offer the galaxy beyond technology and power. You have reminded us that even a human can influence events with courage and heart." The council members nodded in agreement. "Indeed," the head of the council said. "You have surpassed our expectations, human. You have proven that humans are capable of more than we imagined. Your perspective, ingenuity, and compassion are worthy of respect." Ethan felt a swell of pride and relief. He had come to Lysera as a visitor, a curiosity. Now he stood recognized, valued, and respected, not because of his title or status, but because of who he was as a human being. Lyra smiled at him, her eyes warm. "I said I wished, and perhaps that wish is coming true. You are more remarkable than I imagined." Ethan smiled, feeling the truth in her words. "I suppose some wishes do come true." As the ceremony concluded, delegates and council members praised Ethan's insight and courage. But for him, the most important recognition was the quiet look Lyra gave him. A look of admiration, respect, and connection. For the first time, Ethan realized that humans were not just observers in the galaxy. With courage, heart, and creativity, they could shape events, inspire others, and build bridges across worlds. And perhaps, just perhaps, one human could even capture the attention of a princess from a faraway world. That night, as he gazed at the stars from his quarters, Ethan thought about the future. Challenges would come, obstacles would appear, and expectations would rise. But he felt ready. Humans had a way of rising to challenges, of adapting, of surprising even the most advanced civilizations, and he was just getting started. The success of Ethan's challenges brought him recognition, but not all attention was positive. In the days following the ceremonial presentation, whispers of doubt began to circulate among certain alien factions. Some delegates questioned whether a human so different, so bold, could truly understand Valari culture or influence their world without causing disruption. Ethan felt the tension, even if he did not understand the nuances at first. He had always believed that humans could meet any challenge with curiosity, courage, and heart. But now he realized that being recognized also attracted skepticism, and sometimes opposition. One morning, as he walked through the palace gardens with Lyra, a Valari council member approached. His expression was serious, eyes fixed on Ethan. "Human," he said, "there are concerns about your influence among the council. Some believe that your presence may disrupt Valari traditions and authority." Ethan paused, his heart quickening. "Disrupt? I only seek to understand and learn. I have never acted to undermine anything." The council member shook his head. Intentions matter less than perception. Actions are watched closely. Some factions are already unhappy with the human presence here. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes calm but firm. "Ethan," she said softly, "do not let their doubts shake you. You have proven yourself through courage, wisdom, and heart. But you must be prepared. Opposition may test you in unexpected ways." Ethan nodded. He had faced challenges before, but this was different. This was not a controlled test. This was politics, unpredictability, and the need for diplomacy. He realized that his human qualities, creativity, boldness, and intuition would now be tested on a grand scale. Later that day, a rival faction of Valari diplomats formally requested a meeting with Ethan. They intended to challenge him publicly, questioning his understanding of traditions and his role in the council. Ethan prepared carefully, reviewing what he had learned about Valari culture. But he also relied on his instincts, the human ability to think differently, to solve problems with unconventional methods. When the meeting began, the rival faction wasted no time. "Human," one diplomat said sharply, "you claim to understand our culture, yet you are an outsider. How can you possibly know the proper path for our people?" Ethan took a deep breath. "I do not claim to know everything. I am learning. But I have observed, listened, and acted with respect and integrity. If my perspective helps resolve challenges or prevent harm, is that not valuable?" The diplomats exchanged skeptical glances. "Your actions may have consequences we do not yet understand," another said. "You risk influencing decisions that should be guided by Valari tradition alone." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "Tradition is important, yes, but sometimes strict adherence to tradition can blind us to solutions that benefit all. Humans have a way of seeing connections others miss. I offer perspective, not control." The tension in the room was palpable. Ethan's calm, measured words contrasted sharply with the rigid criticism of the diplomats. Lyra observed quietly, proud of his courage and clarity. One of the rival diplomats leaned forward. "If your influence grows, it could destabilize delicate negotiations with neighboring systems. How do you respond to that?" Ethan considered carefully. "By working with others, listening deeply, and finding solutions that respect both tradition and progress. Conflict often arises when one voice dominates. Humans survive and thrive by collaboration, by combining strengths rather than imposing them. That is my approach." There was a long silence. The diplomats looked at each other, unsure how to respond. Ethan's words were simple, but they carried truth. He had acknowledged the importance of tradition while offering a constructive, human-centered approach. Finally, the council head spoke. "Human, your response demonstrates wisdom, courage, and respect. You have addressed concerns without disrespect or defiance. This is remarkable." Ethan felt a mixture of relief and pride. He had faced a diplomatic storm and emerged with integrity intact. But he knew this was only the beginning. Challenges would continue, and he would need to rely on all his human strengths to navigate them. That evening, Lyra invited Ethan to a quiet terrace overlooking the palace grounds. The twin moons of Lysera cast silver light on the gardens below. The air was soft and fragrant with alien flowers. "You handled today well," Lyra said, her eyes warm. "Few could face such opposition without fear. You relied on what humans do best: courage, empathy, and creative thinking." Ethan smiled. "It was not easy. I feared failure, disappointing you, or making mistakes that could harm your people." Lyra shook her head gently. "Fear is natural, but it is how you act despite fear that defines you. That is why humans are unique. You take risks, think differently, and inspire others to do the same." Ethan felt a surge of gratitude. In a galaxy of advanced civilizations, he had found recognition not for status or power, but for qualities intrinsic to being human. His heart, courage, and ingenuity mattered. The next few days were filled with more diplomatic encounters, each testing Ethan in new ways. He navigated discussions about trade, security, and alliances, often facing subtle opposition. Yet with patience and creativity, he found solutions that satisfied all parties. During these moments, Lyra became not only a guide but a partner. She offered insights into Valari customs and culture, helping him understand nuances that might otherwise have been overlooked. Together they formed a team, human intuition and alien wisdom blending seamlessly. One afternoon, a crisis arose. A neighboring system reported a natural disaster. A planet's core was destabilizing, threatening millions of lives. The council debated solutions, but the arguments were slow, cautious, and filled with concern for protocol. Ethan stepped forward. "We cannot wait for perfect solutions," he said firmly. "People's lives are at stake. We must act quickly and combine our resources creatively." The council members looked at him, some doubtful, others intrigued. "Human, your proposal is unconventional," one said. "Are you certain it will succeed?" Ethan nodded. "No solution is perfect, but inaction will cost more than risk. Humans act, adapt, and learn. We must do the same now." With Lyra's support, Ethan coordinated a plan that combined Valari technology with human strategies. Communications were sent, resources were mobilized, and a coordinated effort began to stabilize the planet's core. Hours later, the disaster was averted. Lives were saved, and the council witnessed firsthand the value of Ethan's perspective. His human qualities, boldness, adaptability, and collaborative thinking, had made the difference. After the crisis, the council members approached Ethan individually. "You have proven humans can contribute meaningfully to Valari affairs," one said. "Your perspective is necessary, even valuable." Lyra smiled at him, pride shining in her eyes. "Do you see now, human? Your courage and creativity are respected, not just admired. You influence more than you realize." Ethan felt a quiet joy. He had faced opposition, criticism, and doubt, yet he had prevailed, not through force but through ingenuity, empathy, and determination. Humans had a way of turning challenges into opportunities, of finding solutions when others hesitated. That night, as they walked together under the twin moons, Lyra spoke softly. "Ethan, the galaxy is vast, filled with beings who underestimate humans, but you remind us that courage, heart, and perspective are more powerful than any technology or tradition." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the truth in her words. "I never wanted to prove humans are better," he said. "I only wanted to show that we matter, that our curiosity, courage, and heart can make a difference." Lyra nodded. "And you have done exactly that. More than I imagined." They walked in silence for a while, each lost in thought. Ethan realized that the challenges, the opposition, and even the skepticism had strengthened him. He understood that being human meant embracing both vulnerability and courage, and that these qualities could leave a lasting impact even in a galaxy of advanced beings. As the night deepened, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. The conflicts, doubts, and challenges were not obstacles. They were opportunities to demonstrate the value of humanity. With Lyra by his side, he knew they could face whatever came next. And in that moment, under the glow of the twin moons, Ethan understood something profound. A human could stand shoulder to shoulder with the galaxy's greatest civilizations, not because of power or technology, but because of heart, courage, and the unshakable determination to make a difference. The journey was far from over, but for the first time Ethan felt ready. The weeks following the crisis on the neighboring planet were filled with both celebration and reflection. Ethan had become a recognized figure among the Valari, admired not only for his ingenuity but for the courage and heart that he brought to every challenge. Yet despite the recognition, he remained humble. He walked through the palace gardens, his mind replaying the events of the past days. The Valari, so advanced and precise, had begun to see the value of human perspective, curiosity, courage, and a willingness to act even when the path was uncertain. These were qualities that could not be programmed into machines, nor taught through tradition alone. Lyra joined him, her presence calm and reassuring. "Ethan," she said softly, "your actions have changed perceptions. Humans are no longer merely observers to us. You have shown that they can influence, solve problems, and inspire." Ethan smiled. "I did what any human would do, observe, think, and act. But I could not have done it without you, Lyra. You taught me to understand, to respect, and to approach challenges wisely." Lyra's eyes softened. "Perhaps that is the beauty of our connection. We learn from each other. Humans have heart and courage. Valari have wisdom and experience. Together, we see possibilities that neither could see alone." In the council chamber that day, Ethan was formally recognized. The head of the council spoke, his voice steady and sincere. "Human, your presence has reminded us that the galaxy is vast and wisdom takes many forms. You have approached challenges with creativity, courage, and empathy. For this, You have our respect and our gratitude." The other council members nodded in agreement. Some even offered personal words of appreciation. "Your perspective was unexpected yet effective," one said. "You have shown us that collaboration between species is not only possible but necessary." Ethan felt a swell of pride. He had come to Lysera as a diplomat, as a curiosity, yet he now stood acknowledged as a valued contributor. He had proven that humans could not only survive among advanced civilizations but thrive, and even inspire them. After the formalities, Lyra approached him. Her expression was thoughtful yet warm. "Do you remember the first words you said to me?" she asked. Ethan chuckled softly. "I suppose I do." "Marry me then," I joked. Lyra smiled, her eyes sparkling. "And I said, I wish." Those words were playful, yes, but they also reflected a hope, something I rarely express. And now, after all that has happened, I see that your humanity has brought that hope closer to reality. Ethan felt a rush of emotion. He realized that their connection had grown far beyond curiosity or admiration. It had become a bond built on respect, shared challenges, and mutual understanding. "Lyra," he said quietly, "I never imagined that a simple joke could lead to all this, but I am grateful. Grateful for your trust, your guidance, and for believing in me." Lyra's smile deepened. "And I am grateful for your courage, your heart, and your perspective. You remind us that the universe is more than rules and technology. It is also about empathy, creativity, and bravery." As the twin moons of Lysera rose in the night sky, Ethan and Lyra walked through the gardens, their steps quiet yet confident. The events of the past weeks had tested them both. The human with his boldness and heart, the princess with her wisdom and patience. Together they had navigated politics, crises, and skepticism, emerging stronger and more united. One evening, as they sat near a softly glowing fountain, Lyra spoke again. "Ethan, I said I wish the first time we met. Now I believe that wish can become reality, not as a joke but as a promise. Humans and Valari can learn from each other, work together, and build a future that neither species could achieve alone." Ethan took her hand gently. "Then let's make that future together. Not as human and alien alone, but as partners, as equals, ready to face whatever challenges come our way." Lyra nodded, her eyes shining. "Yes, together." The days that followed were filled with preparation for the next phase of their lives. Ethan continued to learn more about Valari technology, history, and customs. Lyra, in turn, studied aspects of human ingenuity, discovering how their creativity and adaptability could enhance Valari knowledge and strategy. They worked together on projects, blending human innovation with Valari precision. Each success strengthened their bond and demonstrated to the Council and other delegates that collaboration across species could produce extraordinary results. In private moments, they shared laughter, small stories from their respective worlds, and dreams for the future. Ethan told Lyra about Earth's oceans, mountains, and cities. Lyra shared tales of distant planets, ancient discoveries, and the lessons she had learned as a leader. Through these exchanges, they built trust, understanding, and admiration. One afternoon, as the two of them observed a distant star cluster through a palace telescope, Ethan reflected on how far he had come. He had arrived on Lysera as a visitor, a human in an alien world, uncertain and cautious. Now he stood recognized for his courage, intelligence, and humanity. The galaxy, once distant and overwhelming, now felt like a place where humans could belong, contribute, and inspire. Lyra noticed his thoughtful expression. "What are you thinking?" she asked. Ethan smiled. "I'm thinking about how humans are often underestimated. Yet, when we face challenges, act with heart, and embrace courage, we can make a difference. I feel proud to represent humanity here, not just for myself, but for everyone back on Earth." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "And we are proud of you. You remind us that strength comes in many forms, not only in technology or tradition, but in courage, creativity, and empathy. Humans possess these qualities, and you have shown them brilliantly." The summit's final day arrived, marked by celebration and acknowledgement of the bonds formed between species. Delegates from across the galaxy attended, honoring the collaborative efforts that had solved crises, strengthened alliances, and fostered understanding. Ethan and Lyra stood together as the crowd applauded. The princess's hand rested lightly on his arm, a silent gesture of trust and connection. For Ethan, the applause was not only recognition of his efforts but a symbol of the broader acceptance of humanity's unique contributions to the galaxy. Later, in a quiet chamber away from the festivities, Lyra turned to Ethan. "Do you remember the first time we met?" Ethan laughed softly. "Of course." I joked, you smiled, and said, "I wish." I froze, but it was the start of something unforgettable. Lyra smiled warmly. That wish was more than a playful comment. It was a hope. Hope that someone from another world could bring new perspective, courage, and heart. And you have fulfilled it, human. You have exceeded even my expectations. Ethan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. I could not have done it without your guidance and trust. You believed in me when others doubted. You saw value where others hesitated. Lyra's eyes shone. And I will continue to believe. Together we can face any challenge, learn from each other, and build a future where humans and Valari, perhaps all species, work together. That night, Ethan and Lyra stood on the palace balcony, gazing at the stars. The twin moons of Lysera reflected in their eyes, and the galaxy stretched endlessly before them. Ethan felt a sense of belonging, purpose, and hope. "Lyra," he said quietly, "humans may be small compared to the vastness of the galaxy, but we have heart, courage, and creativity. With those qualities, we can reach far beyond what others expect. And now I feel that the galaxy is a place where humans truly matter." Lyra nodded. "Yes, human. You have reminded us that the smallest spark of courage can ignite the greatest change. Your humanity is your strength, and it inspires all who witness it." Ethan took a deep breath, looking at the stars, at Lyra, and at the vast future that awaited them. "Then let's face that future together, as partners, as equals, and as a reminder that humans can rise to any challenge." Lyra smiled, her hand in his. Together. And in that moment, under the twin moons and the endless stars, Ethan realized that his journey was only beginning. Humans had proven their worth, and he had proven his own. But more importantly, he had found connection, respect, and hope in a galaxy full of possibilities. The universe was vast, challenges would come, and the future was uncertain. Yet for Ethan, the adventure was no longer daunting. With courage, curiosity, and heart, and with Lyra by his side, he knew that humans could face anything, and that even the smallest species could leave a mark on the galaxy. Together, they looked forward to a future filled with discovery, adventure, and shared dreams. A future where humanity was no longer an outsider but a valued part of the cosmos. And as the twin moons of Lysera cast their gentle light over the palace, Ethan felt a quiet certainty. No matter what came next, humans could rise, adapt, and inspire, just as they always had.